alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Angie Rich serving as an alternate for Dennis Kennedy. And Rich Opry serving as an alternate for Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have minutes from last week's meeting, March 18th. Any corrections or comments about the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? And I will second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any public comment today?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. So we're on to, yes.
And no tabled items.
Okay, thank you. On to new items.
First item, item number BC 2019-237, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with Republic Services of Cleveland, doing business as Browning Ferris Industries of Ohio, Inc., for rubbish removal services for various county buildings for the period May 1st, 2017 through April 30th, 2020, to expand the scope of services effective March 25th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $265,015.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This first item, we're submitting an amendment with Republic Service. They provide the waste and garbage pickup for various county buildings. It's a change in the scope with some a reduction in some of the charges they were charging us, and additional funds not to exceed $265,000. The additional funds is going to cover. Over the past year, we've taken on a lot of construction projects. Cleveland Police Headquarters, we started seeing some hallways at Harvard, Halley Building, a lot of the even smaller in-house projects at some of the various buildings. Every one of those construction projects, we have to call out the vendor, bring out either a 20 or 40-yard dumpster. That's how we dispose of the equipment. So since 2017, we've seen a great increase in the services they've been providing, which obviously causes a reduction in the balance. The 265 is it should take us through the life towards I think it's 2020, the end of this contract. And then the change in scope was some of the charges that the vendor suddenly started to charge us. Container refresh, it's where they wash out the actual container. We shouldn't be charged that, so we're wiping that off. The actual item, fuel surcharges, we're not going to be charged fuel surcharges. A good example is with the change in scope, the vendor wanted to start charging service attempt charges. So when the vendor actually goes to one of our buildings, so we've got locked gates, whether it's Juvenile Justice Center or Justice Center, no one's there for one reason or another, they couldn't get in, they had to go somewhere else. We were charged the service attempt charge. So to change that, we're dropping that charge, but we're also giving the drivers of the vendor our multiple contact information from the county. So if they are there, they can get right in by one means or another. So, that's it.
Questions? Councilman.
So is the additional $265,000 totally a matter of that there's been a large increase in the amount of work that needs to be done as opposed to the type of service being provided being different?
Two different things. So the service that we're being provided is not really changing, but we're altering some of the charges the vendor wanted to charge us. We were told to put it as a change in scope because if we're giving the vendor all of our contact information, technically we're changing the scope as it was not in the original contract. The additional charges is, the balance of what we have left is getting lower. We needed to increase those funds to cover what we're forecasting. I work with our business service manager. She forecasted the end of the contract in early 2020 should cover, the pattern or the history of what we're seeing. We're trying to forecast.
And is this $265,000? I see it's coming out of internal service fund, meaning that it's charged back to departments. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it's through space maintenance.
And my question is this going to fall within what has been budgeted for space maintenance for this year and the first part of next year, or is this going to create a draw on reserves being unanticipated expense?
I can answer that one.
Mike Chambers, Public Works. The items that were related to the capital projects will be charged to the project. So that should reduce the impact. So anything basically space maintenance was building related will be charged, and hopefully that's been pretty much routine. The big surge, as Tom indicated, was all these additional projects. So the majority of that should go to the projects.
Okay, right.
Any other questions? Yeah, Char?
Tom, do you have a total of how much, since the contract started, that we paid in the fees and charges, like these additional fees and charges, versus now that we won't have to?
It was roughly $40,000. The biggest component of that was fuel surcharges. They really wanted to hit us big on that one. Some of the smaller ones, I think there's like a recycling fee. That was just a few $100s, but the big one was the fuel surcharge, and then the container refresh. Those are your two big ones, but the total that we were talking that would be a credit to the county would be $40,000.
What's the total value of the contract, Tom? Do you know?
The original was we did this as a formal bid. It was $300,000. That was based on historical spend, I believe, the previous bid that we did. So, but that was in early 2017. I think the contract started in May. Yeah, May of 2017. So I think at that time, I don't think we anticipated a diverse number of construction projects. The Cleveland Police was big, Halley Building, Harvard. I don't think that was thought of at that point.
Any other questions?
Yes,
Counsel.
follow-up question. Is the additional money coming out of the projects going to put any of the projects outside of their expected budget, or are there places where they can make up for it and still come in on budget?
I believe all the capital projects, they had line items for waste and, part of demolition and construction. So I don't anticipate that going over the budget from this commodity.
Okay, fine.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion second. All those in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number BC 2019-238, Department of Public Works, recommending to amend board approval number BC 2018-142, dated March 5th, 2018, which authorized an alternate procurement process which resulted in award recommendations to various providers for the purchase of ready-mix concrete to complete various department orders, and it's for the period March 1st, 2018 through March 28, 2020, by changing the amount not to exceed from $320,000 to $520,000 for the following vendors: Rockport Construction and Materials, Inc., Carr Brothers, Inc., Cuyahoga Concrete Co., Campbell Concrete and Supply, Osborne, and Tech Ready Mix.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works again. This item, we're recommending to amend a previously approved board item for alternate procurement process for our concrete purchases. In 2018, we did this as an informal bid. We awarded to multiple vendors based on that. This is for our road and bridge and our sanitary division, and in some cases our facilities division. We've had an increase in projects in all those divisions over the past year. So we're using concrete a lot more on a regular basis. These still come to the board as department orders. So this is just a permissible dollar value. There's not a contract. What this results is an additional $200,000 that'll result in multiple DOs with any one of these vendors based on the business need and where we need it most.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second? All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-239, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to an agreement with the City of Berea for sanitary and storm sewer maintenance services located in County Sewer District Number 8 for the period June 1st, 2017 through March 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to March 31st, 2020, and for additional revenue in the amount not to exceed $110,000.
Mike Chambers of Public Works. This is the annual agreement. They're a direct bill community with City of Berea, and working with their leadership, we came up with $110,000 for maintenance services. We'll draw this down as we perform work in the community, and this is just asking for approval of that agreement.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Next item, item BC 2019-240, Department of Public Works, recommending a payment to Norfolk Southern Railroad Company in the amount of $1,955.15 for railroad flagging services in connection with the in-depth inspection of various bridges for the period August 2017 through June 2018. For the following bridges: Lakewood Heights Boulevard Bridge, West 140th Street Bridge, West 150th Street Bridge, Egbert Road Bridge, and Rockside Road Bridge.
Nicole English with Public Works. We're asking for approval to pay Norfolk Southern for flag services. So when we do in-depth inspections, we have to go on their property. Whenever you enter their property, they have to provide the flagging services. So they don't tell you up front how much it is. They bill you after the fact. And we just received the invoice about a month ago and put it in the system for payment. And this is paid out of road and bridge funds.
Questions? Councilman?
This is money for my district, 3 out of 5. I'm going to move for approval.
Thank you.
If no further questions, I guess not. I'll second that. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, item number BC 2019-241, Department of Information Technology. It's a two-part item. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 45033, which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $3,459.01 for the purchase and installation of access control equipment for 2 doors located on the 5th floor of the Courthouse Square building. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This particular item is an expansion of the Integrated Precision Systems Access Control in the Courthouse Square building, specifically to the task offices on the 5th floor that we relocated as part of the probation department move out to both this building and the Cleveland Police Headquarters building. After the task department moved, they discovered some operational concerns with security at these 2 doors. This is at their public service counter right off the 5th floor elevator. And so they've requested, and we're going to provide, if this is approved, 2 new doors that'll be access controlled only to employees.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2019-242, Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Reentry. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 44721, which will result in a payment to Millennia Housing Management Ltd. in the amount not to exceed $3,255.89 for a seminar entitled Building Inclusive Financial Spaces, which was held on August 24th, 2018. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Yes, good morning. Fred Bolton with the Office of Reentry. This is just a reimbursement to Millennia for money that they put out for the Marriott facility, use of the Marriott facility. The question came up of why it was delayed bringing this invoice. The funds are coming from a grant from the Credit Bureau's Alliance for us to organize and host this event, which was done. Millennia agreed to provide sponsorship for a breakfast there, but they received the bill for the entire amount from Marriott, which they then paid and then came to us for reimbursement. But they were not registered as a vendor with the county, so they had to go through the whole registration process, which was time consuming, and that is why this is late. It's simply pass-through money from funds received as part of that grant from Credit Bureau's Alliance to reimburse Millennia for the money that they laid out.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-243. It's a two-part item. Department of Sustainability, A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 44908, which will result in an award recommendation to Solar United Neighbors Corporation in the amount not to exceed $25,000 for implementation and coordination of 2 solar co-ops to provide solar energy outreach and training services to residents of Cuyahoga County. And it's for the period March 25th, 2019 through March 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Mike Foley from the Department of Sustainability. So this is our contract with Solar United Neighbors. They're a national nonprofit who run basically group purchasing, group procurement throughout probably 10 to 15 states throughout the country, and they've done this in about 10 to 15 counties throughout Ohio. They provide information sessions. They will go out and send out an RFP to installers throughout the Midwest and help members of the co-op then distill kind of the information that comes back and choose a installer. We've done this in the last couple of years. We've had, there's probably been a savings for people who've wanted to go solar of about 15 to 20% on their own homes. So it's a good contract. These guys do great work, and we'd recommend it. We go forward with it.
Questions? Yes, Trevor.
Mike, I don't have an issue with the contract. The only problem that I have is the RFP exemption part of it. And I know we asked this question. The backup says that they're the only vendor that provides these services, and I just never understand why then we wouldn't process this as a sole source if they're the only vendor that can do it versus providing an RFP exemption.
Yeah, it's probably our fault that I don't know of any other way to. This is the way we've done it the last 2 years, is done an RFP exemption, and so if we need to do a sole source, or in years future, we'll do that. But I guess these guys they do a great job for us. I don't know anyone else who does this, and this is just kind of the way we've done it in the past.
Where I go back to, and it's not just your item, Mike, we see this quite often where the backup material will say that the vendor is the only vendor that can provide this service, and that's why they're asking for the RFP exemption. But that's where the sole source affidavit comes into play. It's not the RFP exemption. So, I mean, if a vendor is the only vendor that can provide the service, my preference would be that they sign the sole source affidavit and we approve it as a sole source item, or go out to bid, either one. But I mean, that's the only issue I have with the RFP exemption.
And so I'm clear, Trevor, then it would come back to the board in that form?
Yeah. I mean, or if, the issue though, then sometimes the vendor might not want to sign the sole source affidavit, and then that's where we then do an alternative procurement or something like that. But that's where.
Is it an option to approve this pending them signing it separately, so that, or would that necessitate that you just process it as a sole source? Would you have to come back?
Yeah, I think we could approve it if we wanted to. I would look
Pending.
to OPD, but pending them signing the sole source affidavit and go from there.
Thoughts?
Rich Obrey from OPD. There's two processes that you're describing then. One is just signing that sole source affidavit, which would be one, but if you wanted to do the sole source process, it would require that it gets posted 5 days on our internet site.
So I think we're talking about the former as a contingent approval, if they're willing to do that. Mike, do you have any sense of how that would, if we just go back and have them sign the affidavit?
Yeah, I don't think I really don't think there's anyone who does this. I don't want to put this off. Obviously, we've got plans to start doing information sessions at the end of April. So to the degree that this makes
I also don't want to hold it up either. I just, when you see where in writing that they're the only vendor to do that, it just makes me believe then we should process it as a sole source. So
I think that would be the motion then would be to approve pending the vendor signing the sole source affidavit. Is that right? I can make that motion. If there's no other questions.
I would second that as long as we can do it, if the OPD is okay with doing that process.
Historically, in the past, we've always held the item and then came back per Lenora Lockett, the director.
If we don't have to do that, I would rather not do that, but
Rich Obrey.
I'll defer.
Again, I'm hearing two options. One is just to sign the affidavit. If the board wanted to approve just signing the affidavit, that's what it'd be. But for a proper sole source, you'd have to have them sign the affidavit process. It would have to be reprocessed through the on-base system, posted 5 days on our internet site.
Yeah.
Well, I think if the board's comfortable with the motion, the contingent motion pending approval of, or the signing of the affidavit?
I would be comfortable with that.
Good, so,
So how long will that take?
no, Mike, so what we're proposing is that you just go back to the vendor and provide the sole source affidavit, and they have to sign it. So we would not be going back through the process again, but they would have, but it will not go forward unless they sign that, right? Is that the understanding?
And then we would, I'm sorry, then we would have to change the language to, instead of an RFP exemption, it would be just a recommendation of an award. That would be the pending result, because an RFP exemption would not be needed.
Right. So that's what it's a new motion, basically. So it's a motion to not just approve the item as described, but to approve.
To amend it as a sole
Yeah,
source.
as a sole source pending the signing. Okay, are we clear? Okay, so
Yes.
I made a motion. I think, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All's in favor of approving that item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
As amended.
As amended. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, item number BC 2019-244, Office of Innovation and Performance. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 44920, which will result in a membership with City Innovate, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $20,000 for participation in the Startup in Residence Program, also known as STIR, for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Catherine Tkachuk, Office of Innovation. So this is a membership agreement in the program City Innovate, which one of the main portions of that is their Startup in Residence program. Last year they worked in over 28 cities to run this program. It is a challenge-based RFP process. So communities, organizations, cities determine some of the challenges they're facing and put out an RFP with those challenges, and then startups apply to solve that challenge in partnership with the community organization. Once the startup is selected through the challenge-based RFP process, then they work with the organization for 16 weeks to build a technology solution to solve that challenge. And after that 16 weeks, if the government, so if Cuyahoga County, we are happy with that solution, then we can go to contract with that vendor to provide that solution longer term. So this is the membership agreement that allows us to participate in that program.
Kind of the same question, Trevor?
Yes, but I think Catherine provides an answer that was sufficient in terms of it's more of a membership
So that-
to the, I kind of pictured it like the CCAO and stuff like that, where
Right.
it's more of a membership.
Right.
So I think the concerns are a little less.
Great,
This one.
thank you. Questions, anyone? Councilman?
Well, if we come up with some solutions that are innovative and solve some big problems, it could certainly be worth way more than 20,000. This has a big potential upside. And my question is whether you have a specific problem or problems that you're thinking about putting out there when we participate in this.
So I've had initial discussions with a number of different departments, and they've provided potential challenges and ideas. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I had that discussion with a number of different departments on ideas for challenges. And we've already talked with directors to start thinking about challenges if this was approved, because there is no limit on the number of challenges that we could put out there as well. So,
Catherine, you had an example, I think, from another city that did it. Did you have an example you can think of that was already done?
yeah, one of the great ones that was done actually for a county is out in San Francisco. They had a challenge where they were struggling to have potential foster families do an application process to be a foster parent. And so they worked with the startup to streamline and approve that process that resulted in a large increase in the number of families that were available to be foster families. So that was a good example of one.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
Oh, very good. And second, motion and second to approve this item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Are we
Moving
on
on
to
to
exemptions?
exemptions. Yes. Item number BC 2019-245, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, recommending an alternate procurement process, which will result in payments to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide community assistance services to Cuyahoga County residents, and it's for the period March 25th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Robin Martin, Family and Children First Council. In prior years, we have used these funds as the FCFC Community Assistance Program, and we ran the applications for the program through the Department of Children and Family Services Neighborhood Collabs. Based on their last contract and the contract deliverables, those agencies are no longer able to process the applications for us. So we wanted to use this as an opportunity to look at some other uses of these funds. We received $407,897 from the state of Ohio from wraparound funds for service coordination families in our county. One of the issues we've had is that the award begins July 1st. However, we do not receive our award letter sometimes until November or as late as January of the next year, which puts us in a position where we have to stop services for families for sometimes up to 6 months. So we want to repurpose these funds to serve as, in two ways. One, as gap funding for families so that we do not have to stop their services. And in the other way, we have families that apply for these funds that are not eligible because whatever they're requesting through their RAP team is not eligible. The services fund non-Medicaid services. So for example, I had one this morning where on the invoice, it sounds like therapy, but when you look at the actual service, it is not. So I cannot process it through these funds because the invoice says therapy, but the child needs the service. We would use this pot as an alternative. So we want to use those two mechanisms coming up for 2019, and we're asking for your approval today. I received a question about why we're using an alternative procurement because the families have voice and choice regarding the services, so we can't identify a provider up front and say that it's going to be X provider serving this number of families. The families tell us individually based on their plans what service they want, and they also have choice about providers.
Questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2019-246, Court of Appeals of Ohio, 8th District, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43874, which will result in an award recommendation to InfaPro Computer Solutions in the amount not to exceed $555,000 for information technology computer services on the Buckeye Case Management and Computer Network Systems, and it's for the period April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2022.
Good morning, Erin O'Toole from the Court of Appeals. We are requesting to enter this 3-year contract with our longstanding vendor, InfoPro, who provides our case management software. They also assist us with computer network hardware and software. They are the developer of the program, and we've been entering contracts with them for a very long time.
Questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, item number BC 2019-247, Office of Innovation and Performance, recommending an alternative procurement process to conduct a challenge-based RFP process in connection with the Startup in Residence program, also known as STIR, for services to be determined.
Catherine Tkachuk, Office of Innovation. So this is the challenge, just approval to use the challenge-based RFP. That's part of the STIR program. That was the previous item that was approved.
Further questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. None opposed? Thank you. To the consent agenda.
We're moving on to the consent agenda items. It's items number BC 2019-248 through BC 2019-251.
All right. Any questions about the consent agenda items? Take a moment. Yes, Councilman.
Regarding 2019-2 249, can you explain why this contract was terminated?
Good morning, Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. We have a contract with the Center for Quality Legal Representation in Juvenile Proceedings to handle our parent representation project. It is a grant-funded contract, and the vendor is a newly formed 501c3. And the individual that was kind of heading that was an attorney that was supposed to be handling all of the training for this new project, working with the attorneys to get the project up and running. And it came to the court's attention recently that she has not completed any of it. No attorneys were trained at all. None of them completed any of the courses. The CLEs weren't being completed. The reporting wasn't being completed. And we did not feel right continuing to spend these grant dollars. So we worked with the Supreme Court of Ohio about the situation, and the vendor refused to work with us to try to make improvements. So we are terminating the contract and taking this project in-house and trying to develop it ourselves.
And did we pay any money out on this?
Yes, we did.
How much?
$46,826.64.
We got essentially nothing back, is that correct?
Essentially, yes.
And are we going to do anything to try to recoup that money, or is it gone?
Our legal team believes that it's essentially gone. It's not much that we can do. By terminating it, we are going to save, it's not much, like $5,000, but $5,000 is $5,000.
How come this went along this far without us becoming aware that this was a problem?
We actually have a grant coordinator that works at our court, and I know she was trying to work with the vendor and work with the Supreme Court, and it just didn't come to light until too late.
Normally we do contracts on a reimbursement basis. The vendor has to provide the deliverables, and once they're provided and recognized as fulfilling the contract, then we make payment. Why was that not done in this case?
I believe that the invoices that were submitted for the vendor was submitting based on hours worked. So if they sat in our jury, for example, if they sat in our jury assembly room and what they had been doing was playing essentially training videos for an empty room because nobody was coming. So she might have wrote down on her invoice, an 8-hour day. So that was how the invoice came. Now since we sent out the termination letter in the last month, they were supposed to host a number of CLEs. So we've been down in our room, making sure that they're there and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of how it had been working. And now the last month or so here, we've been making sure that we're not paying for nothing.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Just to follow up on Councilman Miller's question regarding the recouping, we have a couple agencies here at the county that at a minimum could, send a letter, or maybe you've done that already. We have an inspector general, we have the prosecutor's office, we have the law department that could make an attempt, if it hasn't been made yet, to recoup some of those dollars, especially if we didn't get anything in return. And I'd like to see if that's a possibility.
I could definitely take that back with me, take that information back with me.
And just so I'm clear, these are from the Supreme Court funds?
Ohio Supreme Court, yes.
So we would be collecting kind of on their behalf, right? But we don't have any sense of their reaction, or?
We've actually met with them and talked to them about the situation, and they are willing to work with us so that we can work on this project in-house and do it ourselves. And they're hoping to actually issue some more funding here next year that we could probably apply for this project.
Well, as Joe said, I think administration would be happy to support some kind of collection or a way, some kind of method to do that.
Okay, perfect.
Let's see. Any other questions about the consent agenda? Yeah, Trevor.
I just had a question on the food for the jail. Did we procure this through the reversed auction method that we tried a while back, or is this reverting back to our normal process that we were doing?
Rich Opry from the Office of Procurement and Diversity. This is a actual formal bid, a quarterly bid that we conducted. We're not using the reverse auction at this time. We have the capability with the buy-speed system if a department wished to pursue that method.
Good to hear, because I know it didn't go as well as expected when we were trying to reverse auction.
The quarterly bids have been very effective. We did pursue an annual contract, and we found that the pricing was very much higher, and so we went back to the quarterly bids.
Okay. Thanks, Rich.
Other questions about consent agenda items? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for this week. Is there a second? There's a motion and second. All those in favor of approving these items, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I think we have some other business today. We have an additional item.
Yes, we do. We have an additional item, item number BC 2019-252. It's a two-part item. Sheriff's Department, A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 45280, which will result in an award recommendation to Norix Group, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $147,031.50 for the purchase of not to exceed 750 Stack-A bunks, which are also known as mattress bases, for overflow of inmates at the jail, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption. And the funding source being utilized is general fund.
Good morning, Donna Cleo, Sheriff's Fiscal Manager. This item was originally brought to me. We weren't sure how many bunks we originally needed. So what I did is I told Allison, and I brought Allison and interim warden Christopher with me. We put this out as an informal bid under $25,000 while they were collecting data, trying to get a handle on how many of these things we need. Once we determined that we needed somewhere between 600 and 750 of them, the informal bid kind of got pushed off to the side, and Allison at that time began to work with OPD on how we could make this happen as quickly as possible, because the formal bid process takes so long. So that's when Allison and Cheryl Kensing kind of worked together. If you guys want to come up and you can talk more about this, but they worked together on, I guess there's something in our purchasing policy on how to make a bid of this magnitude or a purchase of this magnitude happen very quickly.
Yes, so this item.
Identify yourself, please, for the board.
Allison Billack, Sheriff's Department. This item did go out to bid for 3 business days originally on the first requisition to get vendors to provide their product. And then we took the 2 lowest, had samples in, the samples were tested, and then Warden Christopher can elaborate more on which decision they decided to do.
Yes, good morning. Philip Christopher, interim warden, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. So we took the, we had the measurements spec'd out for the 2 lowest bids. Norix seemed to have the smallest footprint inside of the cell, which is most narrow, and we felt that that was the better of the choice, cause a less tripping hazard inside that cell. So that's why we would rather go with the Norix brand.
Questions?
I have a question on the other 2. Since we took the 2 lowest bids and sampled them, do we have any indication if the other 3 bidders perhaps would have lowered their price knowing that we were going to buy 750 versus the 120 that we initially bid out?
Okay. Someone want to, anyway, just answer.
No, sorry, no.
I was, when I got the backup material, I was a little confused on how we did the bid for 120, but then I understand that we didn't quite know how many we were going to order at first.
Correct.
So.
I was just, I was told this was an immediate need, so we just said then let's at least get it out there under an informal because we can put it out there quickly. And again, we weren't even sure of the count, so that's what we did just to get a feel for what the cost was going to be. But then when the count came back, somewhere between 600 and 750. But no, we never put it back out to see if the higher quantity would lower any of the bids. We didn't do that. Again, we were told this was an immediate need just to make it happen.
Donna, did we get a cheaper rate from Norix that since we went from 150 or 120 to 750? Did they lower their rate?
I do have an email out for a quote for potentially 600 to see how much their price would be, but I have not received a response back.
Other questions? Jim?
Just to your point, I know you sent an email regarding the 600, but this item here says 720.
Yeah,
Not
we,
to exceed.
not to
Oh,
exceed,
not-
we're gonna do a
I
not
gotcha.
to exceed
I
750 in case they're, yeah.
750, right?
750,
Sure, yeah.
yes.
We wanted to give ourselves a little bit of a cushion there in case we needed more than 600 somewhere down the pike.
Gotcha. So a couple other questions. If we go through this, do you know how quickly they can deliver them?
We emailed, for the samples and the Norrex got it within us 2 days.
Okay.
He's drove up on his own to check out the sample with us. So 2 days he was here.
Okay. Then do we have accompanying mattresses already in stock to go with those?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
These foam beds fit the mattresses that we get.
And then I understand the photo that was supplied to us in the item. Just what this is.
That's not the one.
I don't believe that's the item. Those the ones that we're getting are the plastic ones that are all like one. Yes, that's what I saw online. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that's what it was because they, in the presentation that we had a while ago, they said we wanted to make sure they were stackable. Go ahead, Dale.
Am I right that you had 5 bidders on the informal?
Yes, 5 bidders.
And what was the price quoted from each of them?
Price quoted, we had Bob Barker, $27,912. Cornerstone Detention was $197 per bunk, so $24,940. Correctional Technologies was $21,534. They were the lowest bidder, but their product was bulkier. ICS Jail Supplies, $45,840. And then Norrex Group was $24,276. And there is shipping, so it's not only the mattress, but shipping as well.
And what is the total number of items that we settled on?
Again, when she put this out, she put it out for, I think, 120, that to keep it under the informal threshold. But we're being told right now 600 is what we need, but it could potentially go higher. So we did a not to exceed for 600 to 750, just in case we do need any more quickly.
And am I correct that we don't even know what the price is for the 600 to 750?
We do know they're 194.90, just 194.85 each, so I would say 195 each.
Well, again, the point was that maybe they would be lower with the higher quantity, right? But that's the highest it could be.
Right.
So it's not to exceed.
Correct.
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 I do the math. What's the math?
Councilman Trevor has a question. Yeah.
So this not to exceed is for 750 at the unit price that you quoted, is that?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Trevor, did you have a question?
Did they come with any warranty?
I believe there's a 5-year warranty on these.
And Matt, I know you were in the room. This is the same bunk that the county expert that we hired recommended or suggested that we look at something like this.
That's an immediate way to have the inmates off the floor.
That's what I just want to make sure we were kind of going along.
And the number in the notes I see, it's estimated 500 or so, Warden, that have that. So that would address that as soon as they arrive.
Yes, it would.
So since we're not doing a formal bid, this is an RFP exemption, is that correct?
Correct. We're asking for an RFP exemption, right, and an award approval.
And why is this of such urgency that we have to go around the regular bidding process?
Again, this is what I was told, that this is an urgency. I talked to Chief Carney, and she said this is an urgency because we have to get these inmates off the floor. This is one of the recommendations that was made to us that needed to be addressed immediately. So that was my understanding of the emergency.
That's right, Councilman. This has been recommended to us, but go ahead.
So is the purpose of this so that no one has to sleep on the floor in the jail?
Correct. That's exactly the purpose.
Other questions?
Trevor. Mr. Chair, if I can add, the one thing, the Dave Lambert, who's representing the county on the cases against us regarding the jail, I mean, he's been pushing for this for a couple weeks now. So it's at his recommendation, who I think really got it from our consultant expert that the county hired to, first things first, get the inmates off the floor, get something like this so they're no longer sleeping on the floor.
Just a comment that I'm not crazy about this particular process. However, you're basically talking about a commodity, and I don't think the price would differ by a whole lot if we did the formal process, and given the seriousness of the problem that we're dealing with, I think it's reasonable to suck it up and get this done quickly.
Any other questions? Thank you to the Sheriff's Department, everyone, for getting this done so quickly.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second?
We have to amend the agenda to.
Oh, that's right. That's our process. So is there a motion? I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add this item. There is a motion and a second. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay, good. So now we can proceed to vote. I'd like to move to approve the item. And there's a second. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. I believe we had one time-sensitive item, Andrea?
Yes, we have one time-sensitive mission-critical item. Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 45126 to Rolling Hills Hospital in the amount not to exceed $24,999.99 for residential placement services effective February 6, 2019. The funding source is being utilized, 30% general fund and 70% Health and Human Services levy fund. And then it's got Title 4E. We want to confirm that?
Yes, Bob Math with the Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of Children and Family Services. It should be 70% levy dollars and 30% Title 4E.
Thank you.
All right. About this item. Hearing none, we do an amendment again. Andrea, is that right? So I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Question.
opposed? Yes, Councilman.
Could you provide a little bit more information on what this is for? Is this one of these ones where we have to do it temporarily and then we're going to get them onto one of these
Our master contract, yes.
contracts?
This is, a young teenage girl that's unfortunately been in our custody for about 2 years now. Has been in and out of detention home on several occasions. Has been in 3 or 4 different residential facilities. And DCFS, the young girl's been diagnosed with a whole host of behavioral issues. And they found a placement for her, this Rolling Hills. Rolling Hills is not currently on our master contract, so this mission critical. So the child's placed here, so we can pay the provider, and then we'll add the Rolling Hills to our master contract going forward.
And I see that the facility is located in Ada, Oklahoma. It's not nearby. What is it special about this place that something similar that would meet her needs can't be found a lot closer?
Well, I trust that Department of Children and Family Services looked at all the residential facilities in Cuyahoga County and in the contiguous, states. This young girl's been in 3 different residential facilities, 2 of them locally and 1 of them out of state already, and none of them could handle her particular problems. And then when they pursued, other alternatives, Rolling Hills identified that they can work with a child with these kind of behavioral issues. So it's not, I'm sure it's, from DCF's perspective, it's not a choice. They have to put her out in Oklahoma, but they couldn't locate any other residential facility that would take this child with these kind of problems.
And what's the child's age?
13.
Any other questions? Yeah, Trevor.
Bob, I know you mentioned that you were probably going to add them to the master agreement. Do you see this facility as being one that DCFS might use moving forward for, in case other children need to go there, or is this a one-time?
That's a fair question. I'm not sure I can answer that. It'll be part of the master, past master contract. I suppose if another child presents with those kind of issues and we can't find any other location for him, they would use that. I think the choice is probably to maintain just this child there as long as they can, and probably avoid trying to use, place children out of state as much as possible.
Other questions? Hearing none, the agenda has been amended. I'd like to make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Any public comment?
No public comment
none.
at this
Right,
time.
Andrea, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? I move, and Mike second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you.